Good morning, everyone. Are we ready to talk commercial EVs? Let's have some fun together this morning. I look forward to your questions at the end. My name's Dave Schaller, and I'm here this morning to guide you through a demonstration we recently did from Pepsi to Penske, the latest insights from Run on Less Electric's EV fleet deployments and depots. So we do a demonstration at NACFE every 2 years to show what the best of the best in the truck industry are capable of. So I'm going to walk you through that real fast this morning so you know what's up with commercial vehicles and the work to get to scale that's now underway. In 2022, our board of directors set a minimum of 15 battery electric trucks on one lot. Not across their facilities, not across the country, one lot. And in 2022, over 60% of the battery electric trucks were in California. So if you're looking for 15 altogether, we ended up with a heck of a lot of depots in California. Now that's changed, and if I was to do this again today, I could come up with a much better distribution than what we had here. But I want to walk you through this. As you're working on your projects in electrification, I hope you see some things here that go, man, I want to learn more about that. So we went out and did fleet videos and spent a day or two at each one of these facilities, interviewed 122 people on camera, drivers, mechanics, owners, EVSE suppliers, utility companies, and the like, and equipped these trucks with telematics data from Geotab so we could tell how they were operated every single day. I'm going to walk you quickly through this. What I do want you to know is that everything I referenced today, all the videos, all the data, all the reports, are all absolutely free of charge to you or anyone you want to forward them to, thanks to our sponsors of this event. So what exactly is a Run on Less event? Well, number one, it includes a boot camp that I'll talk about. Number two, it includes profiles, the videos we recorded. Number three, it's a dashboard. So we're running trucks for about 3 weeks where we get to monitor them live, their charging, their operations and whatnot, and make that available so you can actually see them happen. We record stories from the runs, interesting things. For instance, we've got a video that's nothing but the drivers of these trucks and how they feel about them. And right now we're in the report stage of doing the reports for this. So what did we get to see? Well, as you look at this, we had trucks from Ford Freightliner, Orange EV, Bright Drop, Motive, Nikola Freightliner, International, Tesla, Volvo. So a lot of variety of vehicles, variety of sizes, and we'll show you each of these depots individually. Start right here in Canada with Purolator. They have a really unique setup that most of the e-commerce folks are tightly aligned with one specific EV supplier. Purolator's got a little different strategy that they're out testing a variety of different vehicles, which is really cool. That's very typical for a truck fleet to do and have a mixed fleet. What's a unique challenge at Purolator is the fact that the EV charging ports are not in the same places on these vehicles. So they came up with this overhead system so they could charge an Ford E-Transit on the front, for instance, charge the Motive in the lower right-hand corner by the driver's side. So different types of locations and cabling systems and whatnot that are not what people typically think of for EV charging. And they had 15 ABB overhead level 2 chargers. And if you're doing an installation like this in Canada and you want a partner, this is a BGIS facility, and BGIS has an E-team to help you electrify a facility. So we're very impressed with the types of help people find to make these things successful. And the profile video and the metrics are all linked there. So if you want a copy of this presentation, I can get it to you. Frito-Lay in Queens, New York. This is an interesting one. Prologis is the largest owner of both distribution centers and warehouses in North America. Another company that can help you electrify, because for people that don't own their facilities, now it becomes a challenge of, will my landlord allow me to put in the EV charging I desire, or do I need to find a new place to go that has the type of support I need? And in this one, their challenge here was to take this Frito-Lay facility delivering potato chips to New York City and in under 1 year completely revise it. So they did that, and these are obviously diminishing loads of snacks with Con Edison support as their utility. I personally got to go to Compton, California and see UPS facility, quite an interesting one here because they had two different types of vehicles in two very different locations. What they call package cars, the brown vehicles you see show up outside your door delivering packages, those get loaded on an automated line inside their facility, and they had 15 of them with DC 30 kilowatt chargers. Really interesting design for the charging system because those trucks are backed into the loading dock. Their charging system's probably 7 foot off the ground on the back of the truck, but when you're standing up on the loading dock, it's right there at convenient height. So a very interesting location. If you saw the truck freestanding, you'd wonder, why did they do that? Well, it's because of their site. What's really intriguing to me is of our 10 depots that we monitored, and we had agreements with them on what we were going to do well ahead of time, 2 of them did not get their infrastructure in time. If you look at the bottom picture, you're probably wondering, why is there a charging station wedged in between a tree and a bush? They couldn't get their charging stations for their Class 8 trucks that do their middle mile deliveries between facilities, so they put in a temporary charging station to draw power off the building rather than power from the switchgear and new facilities that should have been on the other side of that entry lane. So what the learning from this one is the authorities having jurisdiction are critical in your timeline and getting your permitting approved, or you're going to find yourself in a situation like they were that's far less than desirable with temporary solutions. And I have to admit, Southern Cal Edison's one of the brightest out there for utilities working with electrification, and they couldn't get it pushed through in time. So just an interesting learning to share. In Penske, this is a site where they've got multiple different vehicles and chargers. So the key word here is interoperability. They've got 4D Transits, GM BrightDrops, Navistar EMVs, and Cascadia Freightliner e-Cascadias. Different types of chargers, level 2s, 50s, 150s. They also had probably the biggest on-site battery storage we know of back at the time period we did this. They already had an 800 kilowatt battery there to help them balance battery charging. They're a rental and lease company, so vehicles are coming and going during the day as they support their customers, and they might be charging at a really inopportune time in the rate system. Watt EV is interesting to us because Watt EV is creating the world's first battery electric truck stops. But there aren't a heck of a lot of battery electric trucks out there to serve yet. That's obviously changing every day, every week. But they also have truck as a service or charging as a service. And it's interesting to me because I've been in the industry for 4 decades. I saw cabovers go away in the 80s and 90s. And now we're back with this facility that has cabovers again, both the Nikola Tre and the BYD ATT. Each dispenser could charge 2 EVs simultaneously at 180 kilowatts, or if they're in a hurry with one truck, they can do a 360 kilowatt charge. Our friends from Amp Control, whose booth is just outside our door here, have the charge management system, and this is the first facility we know of that had the brand new MCS, stands for Megawatt Charging System, on site. At that time, they didn't have a vehicle that could handle the new megawatt charging system, but they're ready for it. And they worked with Southern Cal Edison and have a 5 megawatt feed to this site. Performance Team is a subsidiary of the huge global shipping company Maersk. Now you'll see that there's a Volvo VNR here. This facility had 2 different generations of VNRs. The Gen 1 systems had 4 battery packs and were capable of 120 miles on one charge. The new Gen 2s are visible on the left-hand picture. Add additional batteries behind the back of the day cab. You can see that it's kind of blocking the window there. Those are the new batteries, and they'd bump it up to a 225-mile range. They've got 650 kilowatt chargers and 8 180s because this site is going to be growing dramatically. They use Synop Charge Management System, and once again, Southern Cal Edison as a utility. Every year, we like to include at least one fleet that virtually no one's ever heard of. OK Produce falls in that category that most of you probably never heard of OK Produce. I think the owner right now is like 3rd or 4th generation in the company. and hyper-focused on sustainability. They grow fresh produce and vegetables for a living. They are very concerned about the earth and how we treat things. So they've been very into turning their fleet electric. They have 17 Freightliner E-Cascadias, Class 8, with DC 180 kilowatt chargers, but these are the only terminal tractors that were in our run this time. They're those odd-looking vehicles that many of you may not have seen. I used to tell people they are the best business case for an electric vehicle, because if you buy a new terminal tractor right now with the new emissions internal combustion engine on it, the after-treatment system, in order to work correctly, wants to be hot. Well, these vehicles rarely go over 15 miles an hour because they're inside of a distribution center or warehouse lot, and half the time they're moving an empty trailer, so they never have a significant load for very long, and their exhaust systems get fouled up very quickly, and it becomes an expensive repair. Perfect application for an EV truck, but now that I've been at this show, I saw the electric Zamboni, and to me, that is the absolute best business case. It has a very short duty cycle, gets parked, got plenty of dwell time, but these are an interesting business case. That's our number one recommendation for truck fleets, is the terminal tractor, yard tractor. They go by a lot of different nicknames. Interestingly enough, OK Produce already has 4 megawatts of solar on site and 150 kilowatt hour battery storage. We know of one other fleet that wasn't part of this depot demonstration that we would have loved to have been involved, but they didn't have enough trucks at the time. Pitt, Ohio, Cleveland facility has, to my knowledge, the first full-on microgrid to support battery electric trucks. They have vertical wind towers, they have solar, they have battery storage, and a microgrid controller so that they can island. And we heard a funny story that in a recent power outage, the whole neighborhood was quite upset with the utility company, and they were all pointing at Pitt, Ohio. They've got lights on, they're working. How come my refrigerator and freezer aren't working? Well, folks, they've got a microgrid, and they don't need us. So it's interesting to see how that's moving forward in the trucking industry. We've got a BP Pulse charge management system and Pacific Gas and Electric here. Here's the one that stole the show. It forced us into higher charges for running our website and video conference type stuff. There's only one fleet in the world currently running Tesla semis, and that's PepsiCo. The majority of them, 21 of them, are at Sacramento, California, hauling beverages. The other, I think it's 12 vehicles, are in Modesto, California, hauling potato chips. So I got a lot of social media posts that said, I don't believe any of this because they're running potato chips. It's insignificant. No, folks. Pepsi runs beverages. They're really heavy. Pepsi is the most lightweighting, focused fleet I've ever worked with in my career, and I've been doing it for 40 years. These trucks ran heavy all day long because they move different types of beverages. One plant may produce canned soft drinks, another plant produces Gatorade, another plant produces iced tea. So these long-haul beverage runs, the 250, 400 miles a day, were going between the different Pepsi bottling and canning plants. The interesting part when I'm talking to utility companies is they're already running 750 kilowatt chargers with a plan to increase those. I know some of you are going to ask the question, what happened since Tesla supposedly laid off their whole charging staff this past week? I don't know the answer to that question. That's breaking news. But know that they had their eyes set on some really high targets here. And this is a municipal situation where Sacramento Municipal Utility District, known as SMUD, was handling their power feed. More on that one in a minute. How many utility type folks do I have in the room right now? A few? Lights are bright. I can't really see all. I frequently hear, as I go around and work with fleets and utility companies, utilities being very concerned about a term, stranded assets. They don't want to make an investment that might not get fully utilized. I want to present to you the truck side of the world, talking about stranded assets. U.S. Foods purchased 30 Freightliner E-Cascadias at about $300,000 apiece. They were in serious danger of having $9 million worth of stranded assets. So if you look at the picture here, on the left-hand side, they actually developed steel skids to put their charging systems on, and found that they had enough power in their maintenance garage. The backside of the garage there on the right-hand side has what I would term some marine-style connectors out to the charging systems. And temporarily, they had 4 chargers, some 75s and some 62.5s installed to run as many of their 30 trucks as they could charge on any given day. Now, the fun part of this one to me, having been there, is that as they started making deliveries, they weren't allowed to say the name of the company, but for those of you that are familiar with California, La Mirada's right next to Anaheim, and a certain mouse has an amusement park there. And it just so happened Disney was quite excited that their guests in the amusement park were seeing these trucks go by quietly with no emissions and saying 0 emissions on the door, and tended to be very happy with that. Even better, because of the amusement park, it is surrounded by hotels. And these hotels noticed, our trucks come at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, so your quote unquote free breakfast is ready for you. They gave the command, please don't bring any diesel trucks back. You don't wake up our guests when you run the battery electric truck. So it's interesting to see how certain customers are now requesting battery electric vehicles. Here's another one to get utilities and consultants, advisors' eyes open. Another facility that went to a fast 100% conversion is Schneider. Schneider National, not Schneider Electric, the company supporting many of the charging system companies. They went to do a complete facility, and in last September when we were monitoring, they had 82 Class 8 Freightliner e-Cascadias on site. It's now close to 100. They keep adding. They had 16 dual cable 350 kilowatt chargers. And in the truck industry, we refer to this as slip seat. They had drivers slipping out of the seat and another driver slipping in. These trucks were constantly in and out, 24/7 operation. So for those of us that used to have a paradigm that trucks would be a one-to-one relationship with a charger and they would all charge from 6 at night to 6 in the morning, this particular one blows that thought completely out of the water. And even bigger yet, yes, like a lot of the others, they had 5 megawatt load, 5 megawatt feed from Southern Cal Edison. But from the trucks we were monitoring and extrapolate that out across this whole population they had, our estimation is they were pulling down close to 44 megawatt hours per day throughout the course of the day to charge these vehicles. I've already seen one person here go, oh, wow. Yeah, this is an oh, wow moment. This is what the future looks like for large commercial vehicles. Now, what I got to share with you is people that are driving these trucks. I've heard stories about electric cars and whatnot from Loblaw and whatnot while I'm here. I have to share some of these with you. The gentleman in the UPS truck there said, 5 years ago, if you would have said I'd drive an electric truck before I retired, I would have called you crazy. Now that I'm doing it, it's absolutely fabulous. Love it. The guy at US Foods in the upper right-hand corner looked right at me into the camera and said, I hope I never, ever have to drive a diesel truck again. I don't want one. The one that's really intriguing is the lady in the lower right-hand corner who is very technology averse and made the comment, I hate getting a new smartphone. I don't like new technologies. They make me uncomfortable. They stress me out. 2 days of driving the Tesla Semi. I love this truck. Don't take it away from me. This is technology I could get used to. So just really interesting to see and hear from people that are using these trucks, especially big trucks, on how much they like it. It's so much smoother than the 13-speed automated transmissions many of them are used to. Now, here's a real fun part for you. If you really dig data on electric vehicles, our metrics page at runonless.com, you can go in and select which fleet you want to look at, which of their trucks, what day of the 18 days we monitored, and then because I come from the US, I apologize, we have stupid units of measurement. You can choose your units of measurement and look at any of these trucks. As an example, the one that really blew up social media was day 17 of Tesla truck number 3. They intentionally decided to push this vehicle as hard as they could, and if you look at those 3 green boxes, they started out the day at 100% state of charge, brought it in at either Modesto or Sacramento 3 times during the day to charge it. 1,700 kilometers in one 24-hour period with a battery electric semi. So that was way beyond most people's expectations of what could be done with one vehicle. And this one was interesting because they're moving at highway speeds most of the day. You'll see in the lower section, we also allow you to see distance by speed. So it was above 50 miles per hour, or 80 kilometers per hour virtually all day. Some of the other trucks, like the Penske trucks that were doing local deliveries, had huge numbers for regen energy, but not a lot of vehicle speed. So it's fun to go in and look at these different data feeds to see how the different trucks, different duty cycles showed up. And these are all, you can go in and look at any of these. Now, where we're at right now, we just had a data workshop. We had 14 different universities, suppliers, OEMs that got together. We kind of crowdsourced our data analysis from all these trucks that we looked at. And we'll be sharing more of that data here with you soon. We're currently writing reports. We have an intentional focus this year on increased presentations. Just 10 days ago, I was at Truck World here in Toronto. We had a 4-hour EV workshop, very well attended. We'll be doing another one at the EMC gathering in Halifax, Nova Scotia in September. Stop by my booth or stop by the EMC booth, and you can see what we're up to. So this is my 4th trip to Canada in under 6 months, so I'm getting a lot of exposure up here for NACFE and what we're doing and trying to help. Now, I mentioned earlier about the boot camp, just to give you a little more detail on what we do. This isn't us talking. This is us moderating panel discussions of industry experts. So if you go to runonless.com and select boot camp, you've got your choice of 10 different topics that are all hopefully highly on point for you, with utility fleet relationships, grants and incentives, changes in the trucks, changes in the infrastructure systems, and things of that nature. So you can go in and pick out any one of these that you want to watch or share with somebody. Great stuff. Some final closing thoughts here. We see in the middle there, we had 10 depots. Those 10 depots were operating 850 trucks in total. At the point in time we did this demonstration back in September, 291 of those 850 were already EVs. They had 139 chargers. We estimate 1,044 megawatt hours per day across those 10 depots. And we had 8 different charger companies, 5 utilities, and 11 OEMs. It's pretty exciting for us. When we did this last time in 2021, we had Day and Ross also participating here in Canada. So we've seen something like 18 different electric truck OEMs that are profiled in our videos and our data for those of you that are interested. The ARG, the challenge that I have to bring out and have to emphasize, it is not easy to put in a charging system for a depot. We saw ranges anywhere from 9 months to more of them were toward the 33 years, 36-month side of this. We found out about temporary charging systems. It's not uncommon anymore, and there are more and more systems coming out because it's difficult to get the amount of power you want when you want it. You need to start working with your utility companies, in my estimation. Yesterday or last week would have been a good time to start, and we'll talk more about that this afternoon in a different presentation I'm part of. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions, encourage you to stay connected with me, with NACFE. And we have a microphone back by the camera for anyone that'd like to ask the first question. Got a couple questions coming.
Hi,
Yes.
Dave. It's Maddie from Dunsky Energy and Climate Advisors. I'm curious to know what your biggest surprise was of the Run on Less event.
I think the biggest surprise was the challenge of figuring out what to do when your infrastructure isn't coming and your trucks are. The pressure is really on the truck fleet. I can't have $9 million in stranded assets when it's being reported in the company report and it's on the front cover, and I can't make the trucks move unless I find a way. So seeing companies getting creative on where on site do I have a little bit of power to get started. We participate in a lot of different things. I've been to the Distributech utility conferences the last few years, Transmission and Distribution World, and EPRI electrification. And it's really intriguing to see the people and their thoughts. One of the things that I find very interesting, if you're putting up a building, most utility companies will provide you with something called construction power to allow you to run your equipment. There's a real need for truck fleets to be able to apply for quote unquote construction power, which ought to be, it needs a new name. It's not construction power, but something that allows you to get your first charger or two up to speed temporarily until your whole infrastructure is in place. So I hope that answers your question. It's clearly the challenge of infrastructure.
Yeah, to build on that with infrastructure challenges and, for adopting a new technology, does it make more sense to kind of do a pilot project in a small scale at a limited cost, knowing you're going to have some stranded assets going in, but to maybe learn some things before you go full scale? Or do you just go big right off the bat, knowing that eventually you're going to have to do the service upgrade and going to have to go that direction anyway?
That's at least $1 million question. Great question. For those companies that can do a pilot, I highly recommend it. Find out how it works for you, find out what policies need to change with drivers, with maintenance, with support, things that are going to be different. But some companies aren't in that situation. They're under ESG constraints. They've made promises. They have to make improvements. In that case, find friends. Find yourself a BGIS. Find yourself a, now I can't remember the name of the company, Prologis. Find somebody who's been doing these and knows their way through it. Find the charge points and others of the world that have done multiple projects. They know how to meet with the people that are doing permitting, doing construction and whatnot, and can make this happen much more smoothly. Doing it on your own, if you got a big project, I can only say you're taking on a big risk.
Yeah, you see a lot of private sector fleets, especially trying to do this in-house, but they've never done it before. Do you have any lessons learned, some big mistakes that have been done, top points?
Well, I have a slide that I don't have in the deck today, but it talks about the fact that our trucking world has been OEMs and dealerships and body and trailer builders and whatnot. And now all of a sudden you're dealing with charge management system companies, utility companies, EPCs, engineering procurement construction companies. You're even dealing with utility regulators trying to get projects approved and whatnot. So it's a much larger universe of people you're going to be dealing with now. And most of these are people you've never met with before. I kind of laugh when I'm talking to you primary to utility companies. I joke that we're kind of at the junior high school dance stage with utility companies on one side of gym and fleets on the other. Neither one of us is real comfortable with that opening conversation, much less knowing how to dance politely. It gets worse because our languages overlap. If I say, well, let's start out about talking about loads, the trucking companies open the trailers and the utility companies look at the meters. Well, that didn't work. Let's talk about transmission, because it's a lot of power here. Truck companies look down behind the engine and the utility companies look up into the sky. We use the same words that mean completely different things. We're destined to have conversations that go nowhere. And just, were they stupid or what was it? Well, no, it's just we use the same terms in very different ways. So our conversations that need to happen soon.
I understand. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, David. Andrew Hicks from BGIS. Question for you. In addition to the performance that you're tracking for all these different fleets, is there any tracking being done on perhaps the business case, including incentives that these companies might be getting to make it feasible from a financial perspective at all?
That's a great question, Andrew. We are right now in the process. We sent out a follow-up questionnaire to all 10 depots with a whole series of questions we've been getting asked by folks like you that we're trying to go back and get those answers on. Exactly what incentives and grants did you get for vehicles, for infrastructure? Did you get some make-ready funds for your infrastructure? So we're asking those questions, and those will be in our reports as best they're willing to share with us. We're asking for a lot of information that makes people a little uncomfortable. We're asking for. We know some of you that are consultants want much more information. For instance, the number one thing I know you want is weight of vehicles, weight of loads, most fleets can't tell you the weight of a given load at a given time. They know what their tractor and trailer weighs, so they know the maximum load they can put on there, but they don't know at a given moment in time exactly what weight that vehicle is. So there's some things we just couldn't pull off the telematics and share.
Thanks, David.
Any other questions? If you got a private question you didn't want to ask the whole audience, please see me after this, or my booth is right outside. When you turn right, I've got the very first booth. I appreciate your time today and look forward to talking with you. Thank you.